Welcome to Tapestry Feminine Collective Podcast, the show featuring presenters and artists from the 1111 Tapestry Feminine Collective experience. Now, here's your host. Hello, and welcome back to Tapestry Feminine Collective Podcast. I'm your host, Arlia Hoffman. And we are back again with another presenter. I wanted to let you know the registration is open as of Monday, October 3rd. I believe that was the date. So feel free to go to the website, tapestryfemininecollective.com, and check it out. Check out the schedule. And it is my deep honor today to welcome our keynote speaker, Isis Leeor, to the podcast. Welcome, Isis.
Hello, happy to be here.
Lovely to have you. I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to dive into who she is and her work and what she might be sharing with us at Tapestry. Isis Leeor is responsible for a movement of whole and unapologetic women who are finally coming out of the closet. For over 20 years, she has been passionately teaching people how to connect both hearts, the ones in their chest and the one in their pelvis. Isis has been featured in myriad newspapers and radio shows alongside people like Storm Large, Dan Savage, Deborah Anapol, and Sark. She is a coach with an extensive background in body psychotherapy, tantra, and hypnotherapy. In addition to a lot of official studies, Isis has also howled at the moon, been saved by Qigong, taken drugs with a therapist, smoked a peace pipe, flipped off a shaman, learned and unlearned emotionally responsible language, danced with her shirt off in public, avoided marrying an Essene guru, worn cocktail dresses all over the world while going commando. That sounds like a fantastic life.
It has and continues to be freaking amazing.
Welcome.
Pleasure.
Talk about what that's been like, maybe just a little review of the last 20 years, how you learned to really embrace and I'll say your website is the feralfemale.com, your true feral self. And maybe let's start with what feral means to you.
Good question. When I talk to Australians, they're like, why did you use the word feral? We think of cats digging through the trash, mangy little cats. But the actual definition of feral is something that comes back to itself. It's something that moves from domestication into its wildness, its wholeness again. And so I really love that word. And I love how unkempt and how wild it is and how it leaves room for us to unravel. I feel like so many definitions of juicy women feel plumped up. But sometimes as we become ourselves, it is a wild, unkempt unraveling. Those are the right words.
Yeah.
I feel like everything in nature naturally moves towards wholeness, moves towards becoming itself. Trees will weave around obstacles. Everything is wanting its own happiness. My cat is the perfect example. And as women, we forget that we're part of nature, and we forget that it's also our right to be whole, to be happy, to move towards our pleasure, and that this isn't something frivolous or unimportant. It's something natural. It's something that makes us feel interconnected. It's something that makes our life meaningful.
There's so much there. Yeah, our wholeness and the right to be intimately connected with our own selves in its purity.
I think also when we become ourselves, just like other parts of nature, we feel that we belong. And when we're thinking about our own thoughts, when we're questioning what we're allowed, that's when we start to feel isolated. That's when we start to get lost in our pretending. That's when we start to compete with each other. That's when we're trying to earn our deserving. And when we
Yes.
come back to our body, when we allow that unraveling, when we allow the mess of that unraveling, when we own that we get to be feral, we get to come back, even if it looks like a disaster in moments. That's when suddenly we have natural self-esteem, which isn't dependent on anything else. It isn't dependent on our age. It isn't dependent on how we look. It isn't dependent on our skin color. It doesn't matter if a man approves of us or not, or somebody that we want to be attractive to approves of us. We just feel that sense of home and belonging and deserving. And
We
for
belong
me,
to ourselves.
yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And we are the creatures that forgot that.
One of the first things I learned was in the work that I was doing was that the natural world, the trees, the plants, the animals, they're always in their own integrity. They become the teachers because they do nothing but live their own integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. I live surrounded by plants and as much nature as possible. And then my cat is my Yoda.
Yeah.
And each time she puts her butthole in my face or arches her back or goes for the popcorn, I caught her eating my popcorn the other day, I feel delight because she's not self-conscious about it.
Mm-hmm.
She's not, is this okay? She isn't thinking, do I look pretty when I'm eating your popcorn or licking the salt off of it? Right? Am I allowed to have my butt scratched? Like none of that is
You do not
going
ask
through her mind.
permission.
She just feels that sense of this is why I'm here. Of course, I have a right to be happy. Of course, I have a right to be myself. And she just does it. She feels something and then she acts. She feels and she acts. And one of the things that makes us so interesting as human beings is that we have the capacity to think about our own thoughts. So we can be self-conscious, but it's also one of the things that can make us crazy, disconnected, and lose our way. So when I think of feral, I think of coming back to instinct, coming back to intuition, and allowing that kind of logical linear brain to be a tool instead of our guru.
Exactly. Yeah. I went through my own feral phase about 20 years ago and learned it in a very messy way. It was so messy to just shed what society thought and to learn who I was and what I wanted and to live that. But what I found even more interesting is, first of all, we're swimming in it, right? So it's a continual process of shedding and coming home to ourselves. But when I began to transform my health 2 years ago, there was a whole new layer of the culture and the society around the body image, which I already understood, but what we eat, why we eat, how we eat. It just continually amazes me how enculturated we are. And it is the continual work to shed that and come home to ourselves.
Yeah. To hear our own voice, to hear our own instinct, to trust our desire.
How does one navigate the mess? It is and the chaos, because I don't know, maybe is it by instinct, because that's how it was my first time. I was like, this is what I want, this is what I'm doing, period, end of sentence. But it's chaotic.
I guess you're gonna have to come to the keynote, because
there you
that's
go.
the whole topic of the keynote. But I will say that any woman who is moving towards what she wants, or really any woman who is alive, is going to encounter moments of transition, moments of unwrapping, and moments where how she's been conditioned, what she thinks she's allowed to have, what she's experienced before is going to butt up against what she longs for, what she knows, like instinctually she deserves, what she feels is possible. And it's like standing on an earthquake. And how to find ground when you have no external ground is such an important topic. I feel like so many of us have been taught to find safety in what's external, even if that's our partner, our friends. But as so many women know, and maybe you too, and I definitely have experienced, like when you're going through a shedding, when you're standing on ground that's shaking, all of those things may or may not be there in the way you think they're going to be. And so where is the safety? This is what I'm going to talk about in the keynote. Like, how do you work with your animal nervous system that is genuinely freaked out and it's real?
Yeah.
And at the same time, feel that trust that has been polluted by all of these outside influences, that just instinctual trust that you were meant to thrive, and your desire and what's inside of you is leading you towards what you've always longed for, instead of this feeling that I feel like often when there's an earthquake, my dad was the perfect example. He was so afraid and so ruled by his animal nervous system. There was this feeling of, we're going to die. We're not in control, and therefore we're going to die. Like, something is happening that I didn't plan for. It's snowing outside and maybe the car is going to stall. Like, how do I manage my safety out here? And so often when something is going like this, instead of like a world is being created, because this is how worlds are created, earthquakes and volcanoes, it's not just like one day, oh.
No, it's
There
not.
is a process. And when you're being led by what you know, like really deep down as possible for you, and you're butting up against these things, worlds need to be destroyed and created. Yeah. And how to be there with people who are like, oh my God, you're going to die. Oh my God, that's unsafe. Oh my God, you're so risky. Oh my God, if something bad happens to you, you deserve it. And the little internal voice of, oh my God, I've lost my safety. And come back to this place this is exactly how it was meant to be. You're on track. Keep going. Tend to your nervous system and see the whole world as family, the whole world as your lover, and surrender far enough back that you can be held. It's the opposite of what we were taught. I know my parents never taught me that. I know that when I moved to Spain with a suitcase and a cat and almost no money, like, people are like, you're gonna die. You don't even speak Spanish. Like, you are a crazy person. So many things I've done, people are like, this is risky. This is bad. You deserve to suffer, because we don't get a template of life is death and rebirth and nothing's wrong.
So how did you come to that? I know for me, it was, my soul was so strong and so broken by that point. It was like, come hell or high water, I'm going to make my life work for me. What was it like for you? What kept you together in those times of chaos when you...
Well, I'm in chaos right now.
Ditto.
Maybe I can speak from this place because I'm in another cycle of rebirth where, through a million unexpected things, my visa is in question. I've been living in Spain for 6 or 7 years, and suddenly I don't know if I can live here. I don't know if I'm going to have access to my healthcare, and I just had brain surgery. I don't know if the cyst in my head is going to grow back or not. I don't know if I'll be able to pay for it, because it's one of the most expensive surgeries ever. And the last time I had it in the US, my business has changed since the surgery. I'm in a new evolution of my business. And while I don't have children, I am responsible for things. I'm responsible for the people that I'm playing with. And professionally, I'm responsible for my cat. I have right now a 3-bedroom, 3-floor house that's furnished. And by the end of the month, all of that is going to be different. And I have no idea exactly how, because the way the visa and bureaucracy is, everything is unknown and out of my control.
Wow, that's a lesson in surrender.
Yeah. And I just had brain surgery a little over a year ago. So my nervous system was affected. I got, through all the circumstances that happened around it, also, I got a post-traumatic stress injury. Which I don't feel like I have anymore, but it's brilliant, right? Because this is what really qualifies me to have these conversations.
For sure.
Not my training, but being in the conversation and being moved through extremes enough that I can actually speak to what most people are living or have lived.
We'll be right back. The Women's Agency is proud to be an Indigo sponsor of Tapestry Feminine Collective and this podcast. The Women's Agency is a full-service coaching and podcasting firm devoted to amplifying your work in the world because your voice matters.
So how am I navigating that? One is with the humility. That's intense on the animal body. Not knowing where you're going to live, not really feeling any sense of safety or stability. My Spanish isn't great, so I'm navigating all of this in a second language with translators often. And just having this space where I'm like, I don't have to look great while this is happening. But I could have moments where I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
And
that's not even important.
But I think so many of us who've done a lot of work on ourselves, which is probably most people who'll be watching this, it's like we kick ourselves in the ass and the head at the same time. These spirals of self-hatred, like things are happening to us that are out of our control, that are leading to a rebirth. And we're like, oh my God, you should not be affected by this, or you teach this, so why did you just have 3 glasses of wine? Why did you forget you had this interview? Right? And watch this either happening in the foreground or the background and be like, hey, I'm an animal. And this is something that happens to animals. When my cat flies, she goes into freeze. In Morocco, she fought for her life. It was like an epic fail movie where she got free and she ran into some plastic divider while looking at me. And it was so helpful because she's not trying to pretend to be different than she is. So when my animal nervous system is aroused like that, to be able to be like, hey, you're doing great. And of course, you're going to be impacted. And what are the skills you're going to use to take care of your nervous system, have empathy, not add the stress of beating yourself up? How are you going to increase the pleasure while the discomfort is also being increased? Like, how are you going to take days to just focus on gratitude and luxuriate in the fact that you're okay right now? Like, how are you going to remember what you want? Like, I had this vision as I was thinking about this, we're being joined by a mosquito, of a beekeeper like reaching into the bees for the honey and all the bees getting all over them. And there's this moment, I know when I see this, I'm like, oh, you're going down.
Yeah.
You are covered in bees right now. But there is this precision of trusting, knowing exactly what you're going for. And then when they withdraw their hands and all the bees come off, they have the honey. And so there's this feeling in a tremendous amount of chaos and unknown and feeling genuinely out of control, and in moments very helpless because I'm dealing with a lot of bureaucracy. But just like, how do I stay steady knowing that I'm reaching for honey? I didn't just walk into a beehive just because. No matter what, I'm going for the honey. Okay, whoops. I'm going to take a bath now. I've lost my center. Whoops. I'm going to go hang out with a friend. Whoops. I'm going into the woods. Whoops. I'm going to take a day off. Okay, honey. And then slowly just staying on course and remembering it's all about life supporting me in what I've asked for, as opposed to being punished.
Yes.
So
that's one of my core lessons, is learning that trust in myself and the universe, knowing that I'm not here to be punished. I'm here to experience joy in my life. And walking through that fear, it sounds like that, really keeping in focus what's available and the beauty and the pleasure and
practicing it. and getting off your ass when you go a little bit off course. And instead of being like, oh no, I haven't done actually 20 something years of this work or thing, just be like, oh, okay, whoops, time for a bath. Whoops, take a nap. Whoops, hey, you've got bees all over you. Get off your own ass. Like, just keep going slow. And remember, you're being supported in the path of your desire.
Mm-hmm. Being supported in the path of your desire. And to slow down. That's huge.
And really, like, I can't say enough, get off of your own butt, your animal nervous system. If my cat plays dead for 20 hours in the carrier, and you have a moment where you feel messed up, that's fine. And you're going to go through those things if your desire is big and you're really committed to it, because your life will continuously have to rearrange.
Yeah.
Because where we are now and where we're going is different. As all of this is an upheaval, part of me is, and the other part of me is like, ooh, what world is being created now? And how is this going to be even more awesome?
Yeah. I said to you before we got on the air that we are in chaotic times for sure, very uncertain times. And in small and big ways, we're all experiencing this upheaval. And that, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about the key is to stay in touch and really know what your inner desire is. You've got to be able to have that touchstone to know for certain, because that grounds you in yourself, right? That becomes become your own security and balance, but your own core to keep you steady.
But the trust that you're moving towards desire, and that is what every natural creature does. They move towards their own thriving. It's instinct. But then also knowing how to come back, right? If you go and reach for the honey like this, you're probably going to get stung by the bees.
Yeah.
So constantly course correcting in a way where you're coming home to yourself. And I think a lot of my work is how to do that. Because it involves the body, and it involves honoring the part that's freaking out and working with that part. It involves connection. It involves knowing how to let go past the point you want to, because often that's where you're held, right? Maybe in the first tier, you're like, oh, the people I thought would show up didn't show up. And maybe your brain's, oh, and it's just like my childhood, or it's just like my ex-husband or my ex-partner. And you could stay there, or you can keep going. And that's where you access the entire web of what's there to hold you. It's letting go into everything, and not just what you think you can have, and then being disappointed.
I'm reminded of Alice Walker, trust in the goodness of the earth.
Yeah. And trust that at a certain point, especially on the path, I imagine most women listening to are on, the unknown is your ally, and not your, I'm going to teach you through like chiseling into you like a sculptor to carve your future. In the beginning, the unknown is, we get the rumps and bumps because it helps us form our path. It helps us form who we are. It gives us contrast. And in the second half of our life, in our becoming, the unknown is really carrying us towards who we are and our longing. But because the first half is like, ow, 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 ow. Sometimes it
lots of bees.
Lots of bees stinging us, right? It takes a moment to be like, oh, wait a minute. It's not the same now. I got what I needed from that. I got the contrast to know what I want, more or less who I am. And if not, this is also part of my work, right? And now I can relax and let it carry me. But the whole time it's been trying to help me. The whole time it's been moving me towards myself. But I'm in a different phase of that doesn't have to be, unless I fight with it.
Yes. Beautiful. So the title of your presentation is, did not write it down. It's The Unknown is Our Lover. Is that what it is?
I'll have to look myself.
It's something like that. The unknown is our lover. Yeah. Not our enemy. Something.
Lover, not your enemy. Something like that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I think that's treating the unknown as the lover. I think it's a new idea for sure.
And all of these things can sound so nice and so, oh yeah, of course. But really, when I speak from having been through tremendous amounts of, and I'm in it now, life or death, if I can stay in the country, if I'm going to have healthcare. And that really is the mastery of, can you laugh there? Can you find pleasure there?
You've spent the entire podcast just with this huge grin on your face. And I was like, there's joy. There's joy no matter what. Yeah.
But, this is part of what I want to teach people, and also how to change the internal dialogue. So you're not hurting yourself as you're being born. Can you imagine coming out of the womb and being like, oh, it's my fault. My head is feeling compressed. What's wrong with me? Where am I going?
Yeah.
What's happening there? I had an umbilical cord. This is how we can go through change and forget, oh, yum, 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 to see it as Christmas. That's also the unknown. What's in the box? When I work with clients, that's my first thought is like, what's in the box? It looks like this. When I shake it, it sounds like I have the rough idea of what it could be. But as we unwrap the person, it's a magnificent surprise. If we can start to reframe the unknown as Christmas and not something awful we have to survive. But it takes a lot of rewiring and also disconnecting from what we've been taught, that the unknown means lack of safety.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. Yeah. I was definitely raised with that kind of terror of the unknown.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I can feel the animal nervous system that doesn't like being jostled. But when I move, my cat is international. She has an international passport now. She's jostled in the beginning, and then because she doesn't have a story around it, she bounces back. She was 20 hours in the carrier. Like, she wouldn't pee, she wouldn't eat. He's just completely playing dead. And then she gets out, and it's Christmas. And she's exploring the new place.
What now? Yeah.
And she just boom, right? And if we can come back to that instinct, if we can come back to that freedom, if we can come back to our true selves in that way, we can go through these transitions and feel the discomfort and honor the discomfort without getting lost, without feeling traumatized, without feeling punished, without the story, and just accepting this is part of life. I was in Iceland, and you see the volcanoes that create land. Right? It's not like a fairy farts and then suddenly there's land. I mean, there's a volcano.
Fairy farts might be more fun. Yeah. I was just about to say, it's about, totally just lost my train of thought. I was going to talk about being present, but what did you just say? Shoot.
Was it the fairy fart and volcano?
No, the fairy fart distracted me. But it is just about being with what is, being right here, right now. Oh, it's the story, about letting go of the story. Yes. And one of the most important things I ever learned was being with the sensation and letting go of the story. And that all that requires presence right here, right now.
Yeah. And learning the importance of pleasure and indulgence and connection and spaciousness and listening, and not just, oh my God, I need to like do it harder, do it faster, more to do this. Panic is doing something. Panic is not doing something.
Oof, no.
Just letting you know you need to take care of your animal body. You don't like being in the carrier, but in the carrier, you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? How are you going to deal with that?
Yeah. It's funny. I was just remembering the metaphor I use is, it's going to be funny for you, is it's like going to a foreign country.
Yeah.
Because you step off the plane and you can do some research, but basically nothing. Here
Oh,
you are
yeah.
in a brand new place where it is everything, the landscape, the culture, the people, the belief systems. You're swimming in a whole new environment. And you have to come in with that kind of curiosity and Christmas present. Otherwise, you won't make it.
You'll be stung by bees, but
Yeah.
you may get honey, but you'll also be stung by bees. Yeah. That's beautiful because Kite and I right now are scheduled to go, Kite is my cat, to go to Argentina on the 31st. And I've never been there, but if I'm not going to be in Spain, I'm going to go there because I want to dance tango.
There you go. Boom. That's the choice.
There we go. And I will be arriving and know nothing, know nobody. And yeah.
I actually have tango contacts in Argentina if you want them.
See? There we go. There's the web. Yes.
Okay. We will make sure that happens.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. We're illustrating the process, right?
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing, and you're like, hey.
The web will catch us and hold us and support us.
As long as we fall far enough. But there was an exercise. I like to tell stories because I feel like it speaks to the subconscious and unconscious, and it gives people a vision. But in gym class, I think I was probably 12, they had us do an exercise where we stood on a box and everyone was there trying to catch us, and we fell back. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, hell no. I had never felt held in my life at that point. And so I bent my knees in an attempt to try and catch myself. I knew I had to do the exercise. I wouldn't be allowed off the box, but I bent my knees. And learning how to feel safe at all, how to have a template for what it feels like to feel safe is usually the first place I start with people. We're not necessarily going back to a moment where they felt safe. We're learning from scratch.
Yeah.
What that sensation is. And then little by little moving towards like testing. Am I going to be held? Am I safe? I was just more of myself. Is something bad going to happen to me? Mm-hmm. Right? Like actually allowing the whole body to change.
Yeah, that's a beautiful practice of finding the safety and then testing. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And we would never be allowed to do those trust falls in school anymore. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. But you remember them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was definitely not one of those people who was like, oh, sure, I'll just let go. Everything in me is, yeah. So when we're having these conversations, I feel like we can talk about the overview. We can talk about, okay, here are some of the broad skills, but really the practice is learning how to do them and taking those small bites and being in the messy process of learning the skills. Yeah. And when we mess up or we grab on for control, like to be like, oh, that's okay. Yeah. Just course correct, bath.
Or take a walk or go to the gym. Yeah.
Nice meal.
Ooh. Let me tell you what, I never worked out a day in my life before 2 years ago, and it has saved my life more than once in the last 2 years. It has become very much a go-to practice. For sure. It doesn't have to be that, but any sort of physical movement is so valuable.
And giving your body an opportunity to discharge and feel its strength. That's part of connecting with the animal. When I was getting ready for brain surgery, I didn't want to go into freeze after the surgery, which I had with my previous surgery. And so I literally was with my animal, taking walks, moving my body, being like, you could take a tiger, feel how strong you are, feel how capable you are, like feel that you're choosing this, feel how you're taking care of yourself, feel how you're winning. and working with that part of my body. And I feel that when I go to the gym too, of just like, rah, hello.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Isis, I am so thrilled you were able to join us today. And you're our keynote on Saturday, and we're thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for being here with Tapestry. And it's titled Change is Your Lover, Not Your Enemy. I think that's what it is.
No, I don't think that's it.
Uncertainty. No.
Maybe we should look it up. It's within that realm.
I can look it up. We will edit this.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think it would be funny if you didn't. Right, because really, I want this to be a place, like a keynote where people can come and feel like it's okay to be messy because it's part of how we become. It's okay to be in chaos because it's part of how we become. Like, nothing is wrong, and it takes a different set of skills to learn how to navigate that than the ones that we were given. And it also takes letting go of the story that we're messing up, letting go of the story that we're being punished, and letting go of the ways that we self-flagellate because we feel like we should be in control.
Yeah. And control is not all it's cracked up to be.
No, it means a tight butthole and gut issues.
Okay. We have it on the website as the unknown is your lover, not the enemy. So it's pretty close.
Yeah, you were pretty close.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's nice to talk to you.
Sending lots of good energy as your process unfolds in the days ahead.
Thank you so much. And a big welcome to the people who are going to come to the keynote. It will be a pleasure.
I am looking forward to it. It's going to be fantastic. So Tapestry Feminine Collective is November 10, 11, and 12, 2023. You can learn more at tapestryfemininecollective.com and register there. And thank you for being with us today. Thank you to Isis and everyone who's with us on the podcast. We will see you here again next time on Tapestry Feminine Collective Podcast. Thank you for joining us on Tapestry Feminine Collective Podcast. To learn more, visit tapestryfemininecollective.com.